The movie starts, and we hear Wilson snarl into the blackness, "Tell me. Tell me. Tell me about Jenny," his voice dripping with anguish and desperation. The Who's The Seeker starts to play, setting a gritty, determined tone as the screen fades in to reveal Wilson, an aged but unyielding man with a resolute expression across his face. We watch as he travels from the airport to a hotel room. Unfolding a newspaper clipping about a woman's death, his eyes narrow as he reads, the pain of loss evident in the deep lines of his face. Next, he pulls out an envelope with a California address scribbled on it, Ed Roel. The scene flashes between Wilson sitting in a car, gazing out of an airplane window, and standing in his hotel room, lost in thought about a little girl. These flashes hint at the tumultuous emotions and memories that haunt him. He quickly finds Ed Roel. The scene cuts to a suburban street, where Wilson stands in front of a modest house, staring at the address written on the envelope. He takes a deep breath and approaches the door. Ed comes to the door. Wilson introduces himself and reminds Ed of the letter he had written about Wilson's daughter. Realizing who Wilson is, Ed invites him inside. He offers to prepare some food, but Wilson refuses. Wilson is not in the mood for small talk and directly asks him who had killed his daughter, Jenny, but Ed says he never said killed, he just sent the newspaper clipping. Ed says that there was an investigation into the accident, and his daughter's neck was broken on impact. The vehicle got engulfed in flames, but as her neck broke on impact, she must have not suffered being burned. Ed sighs and offers to drive Wilson around. He tries to explain that an accident can happen to anyone, but Wilson is not digesting it and refuses to entertain the idea that Jenny had an accident. He asks Ed if he knows anything about where Jenny bought her grass, but Ed has no answer for Wilson. Wilson sees Ed's tattoos, and Ed explains that he did 5 years in prison but claims he's reformed. Wilson tells him he just got out himself after 9 years. Wilson asks about Terry Valentine, the wealthy record producer who Jenny was dating, but Ed has no idea about Terry Valentine. We see Wilson buying a pistol from a couple of kids, with flashbacks to previous scenes of the hotel, airplane, driving, and talking at Ed's house. Ed recounts driving Jenny downtown to find Terry Valentine. He assumed she suspected him of being unfaithful and was looking to catch Valentine with another girl, but Jenny didn't want to check hotels. Instead, she asked to go to a place that Ed describes as some bad place, where there were shipping and men unloading trucks. Valentine wasn't there, but Ed remembers that Jenny stood right in front of those guys, eyeballing them, checking them out. He comments that, "She made me feel like she was covering my ass." Wilson, now alone, finds the warehouse Ed mentioned. He cuts through the wire fence with ease and enters the property. Walking into the building, he asks the first man he sees at a desk if he knows Terry Valentine. When the man doesn't give him any information, Wilson starts beating him. Several more men show up and pull Wilson away. The man at the desk demands to know who Wilson is. When Wilson mentions Jennifer Wilson, another man asks if she was the girl who came by once. The first man admits that Terry Valentine is a personal friend and refuses to discuss his personal friend with anyone. He tells Wilson that Jennifer had come by asking about him, how he knew Terry Valentine, and the nature of their business. Then, he whispers something vile about what he would have liked to do to Jenny. Unable to contain himself, Wilson strikes the man in the groin, prompting a swift and violent retaliation. The other men ensure Wilson can't fight back and escort Wilson out of the office, taking turns kicking him and throwing him around as they escort him out. They toss him onto the pavement, warning that if he returns, they'll kill him. Undeterred, Wilson gets up and pulls a gun from the back of his pants. He walks right back into the building. The sound of yelling and several shots is heard. Wilson shoots and kills all but one of the men, who flees, and Wilson shouts after him, "You tell him. You tell him I'm coming. Tell him I'm fucking coming." The scene shifts, and we see a grand mansion overlooking the hills and ocean. Inside, Terry Valentine, the owner, watches a young woman in her 20s named Adhara swimming. He reminisces about suggesting the name to her parents, using a constellation. He asks if she needs anything, and she questions why he keeps the scary man in his house, referring to one of his guards named Gordon. Terry Valentine responds that Gordon's been with him for years and adds that he's not as tough as he looks. From above, Jim Avery, his security consultant, watches and shouts down to Terry Valentine, saying he has news. Jim Avery informs Terry Valentine about Wilson's attack at the warehouse and tells him that their friends downtown were taken out. Terry Valentine speculates that it was a gang killing, but Jim Avery clarifies that it was a lone gunman. They then talk and mention Jenny. Ed informs Wilson that Terry Valentine is a money guy, and that Jenny has been with him for 5 years. He notes that Jenny had introduced him to Terry Valentine, but Terry Valentine didn't even see him, as they belonged to 2 different worlds and moved in different social circles. Ed mentions that he met Jenny in his acting class. Wilson then tracks down Elaine, a friend of Jenny's. She reveals Jenny was 21 when she came to her, straight from leaving Wilson. Elaine had helped Jenny lose her English accent. Aware that Wilson has been in jail, Elaine tells him that Valentine is a rock concert promoter. Finding that Ed and Elaine pass his initial inquiry, he elicits their help in investigating Jenny's death. Ed accompanies Wilson as they survey Terry Valentine's place with binoculars. They notice Terry Valentine is hosting a party due to the abundance of valets. They decide to pose as guests. Wilson cryptically tells Ed that he's going to have a butcher's round the house, leaving Ed puzzled until Wilson clarifies it's just a figure of speech, using rhyming slang. Ed then questions who Wilson plans to butcher, to which Wilson explains it means to take a look. Heading upstairs to investigate, Wilson spots a picture in the hallway, evoking memories of Jenny as a child. He finds and steals a picture of Jenny. Meanwhile, Terry Valentine mingles with the party guests as Wilson discreetly explores his bedroom, hiding when Adhara exits the master bathroom tub to answer the phone. Wilson descends the stairs and finds Ed standing by the pool. Observing the precarious design of the pool extending over the air, Wilson mentally rehearses shooting Terry Valentine from various distances, almost approaching him directly before Ed intervenes, pulling him back outside. Terry Valentine, noticing Wilson's intense gaze, has Jim Avery dispatch a man to remove him, prompting Wilson to signal Ed to get the car ready. As Ed waits with the car, Wilson is accosted by a security man who he headbutts and throws over the railing, drawing the attention of the party guests who rush to the edge. When Jim Avery attempts to detain Ed, Wilson forcefully intervenes, pushing Jim Avery aside, and they flee in the car. As they drive off, Ed expresses surprise that Wilson didn't shoot Terry Valentine, but Wilson insists on making him understand. Jim Avery pursues them, ramming their car and then firing a shotgun. In response, Wilson commands Ed to reverse, narrowly avoiding Jim Avery and causing him to crash his car down a ravine. Wilson and Eduardo escape, but Jim Avery hears Eduardo call out Wilson's name. Jim Avery returns to the house and confronts Terry Valentine for speaking to the police without consulting him. Terry Valentine fabricates a story about a troubled longtime employee who succumbed to drug-related issues and committed suicide. However, Jim Avery reveals that Jenny's father, recently released from prison for armed robbery, is now back in the picture, unsettling Terry Valentine. Terry Valentine expresses reluctance to handle Wilson directly using his security, fearing potential repercussions, especially since it could be connected to him. Jim Avery reassures him, implying that he has alternative means to deal with Wilson. Back with Elaine and Eduardo, Wilson reflects on his past with his daughter, recalling her childhood innocence and the times she threatened to report his illegal activities to the authorities out of fear of losing him to prison. Despite her warnings, she never followed through, their bond proving stronger than his criminal endeavors. However, the strain of his criminal life eventually caught up with him, leading to his imprisonment after his associates betrayed him to law enforcement. The scene shifts and at a pool hall, a heated argument ensues between some men during a break. Stacy, one of the men, assaults another with a cue stick. Jim Avery enters and calls Stacy over, proposing a sinister offer. "How would you like to kill someone for me?" Stacy, initially taken aback, reluctantly agrees. However, he expresses frustration at being tasked with locating Wilson himself, as his usual role is simply carrying out the deed without organizing it. Stacy confides in a naive friend about the job, mentioning the hefty sum of $5,000 he's set to receive for the hit. Together, they track down Elaine at a film shoot. Wilson has also arrived to see her. They follow Wilson and Elaine to the hotel garage. As Stacy prepares to carry out the hit in the hotel garage, he's intercepted by men in suits who are from the DEA. They instruct Wilson to accompany them. Wilson and Elaine are taken to another location. In a brief moment alone, Wilson reveals to Elaine that he's secretly stolen a DEA badge and reminisces about watching Jenny grow up in increments, recalling her childhood threats to report him to the authorities. Elaine reassures him that Jenny would never have turned him in, no matter what. The lead DEA agent arrives to meet with him. In their meeting, Wilson expresses indifference towards Terry Valentine's criminal dealings, recounting a personal anecdote about his desire for revenge tempered by restraint. He suggests that while their motivations may differ, they share a common goal. Wilson emphasizes that his pursuit isn't driven by money but by another purpose. The DEA agent shares insights into suspicions of heroin dealers utilizing Valentine for money laundering and expresses that they do not intend to interfere with Wilson's mission. As a gesture of cooperation, the agent subtly provides Wilson with valuable information by, accidentally, revealing a file containing a photograph and address to a house in Big Sur linked to Valentine, ultimately releasing Wilson. As Terry Valentine drives with Idhara to another house, they notice a black SUV tailing them, prompting Terry Valentine's cryptic response that he hopes so. It is because Jim Avery and his associates are in pursuit. Meanwhile, Ed, Elaine, and Wilson also head to the same destination, Terry Valentine's Big Sur house. At the pool hall, Stacy expresses frustration at their beating at the hands of the DEA agents and plots to double-cross Jim Avery. He gets eager to join Jim Avery at Big Sur in search of the big stash of money or drugs. At the coastal house, Idhara voices her frustration at Terry Valentine's secrecy regarding their situation. Terry Valentine deflects, implying she's unfamiliar with having enemies. Elaine shares with Wilson that Jenny had a fondness for the beach and the ocean, triggering memories of Jenny at the beach as a girl and her connection to her island roots. Reflecting on this, Wilson remarks, she was from an island. Back at Terry Valentine's house, as security surveils the property, Jim Avery and Terry Valentine watch TV while Idhara showers upstairs. When a car alarm disrupts the calm, guards investigate, only for Terry Valentine to notice a missing guard from the porch. Unbeknownst to them, Wilson has entered the grounds and tied up and gagged the guard in the yard. Sensing danger, Jim Avery gathers everyone in the living room, taking cover behind the couch. Seeing a figure in the window and thinking of it as a threat, Jim Avery shoots, only to discover it's Stacy upon closer inspection. In the chaos, Stacy's friend, Uncle John, shoots Jim Avery and another guard before being shot by the wounded Jim Avery in return. Meanwhile, Wilson intercepts Terry Valentine as he tries to flee, engaging in a fierce struggle within the confines of the house. Idhara, attempting to defend Terry Valentine, stabs Wilson with a skewer but is swiftly incapacitated. Valentine manages to escape, seizing Jim Avery's gun as he departs without a word. Terry Valentine leaves him to die as he flees to the beach. Despite his injuries, Wilson pursues Terry Valentine, leading them down to the rocky beach. Feeling betrayed, Jim Avery retrieves his spare gun and aims it at Wilson, his eyes reflecting a mixture of anger and resignation. However, he lowers the weapon, silently acknowledging Wilson's pursuit of Valentine. As Terry Valentine fires shots at Wilson, narrowly missing, he twists his ankle and falls, only to be caught by Wilson. With intense determination, Wilson demands answers about Jenny, his voice dripping with rage and desperation. We hear Wilson snarl the lines from the opening, "Tell me about Jenny. Tell me about Jenny." Terry Valentine confesses to Wilson that Jenny discovered his involvement in a drug deal and threatened to report him. Their confrontation escalated into violence. Valentine banged Jenny against a wall, resulting in Jenny's death. Jim Avery and his associates aided in covering up the crime by staging the fake car accident. Wilson, processing this revelation, certain that Jenny would never have turned Valentine in, decides to leave Valentine be. Wilson bids farewell to Elaine and Eduardo before departing for London. Later, Wilson finds himself back on the plane. Engaging in conversation with the woman seated next to him, he reflects on his journey. Memories flood back, including singing a song with the lyrics, "Freedom is a word I rarely use without thinking of the time when I was loved." He recalls Jenny's mother stroking his hair and praising the song in the background. The movie ends here.
Remember to subscribe and turn on notifications, so you can watch more movies like this. Thanks for watching.